Part 2. Goldie cut the bonds of all the birds and said to Sheenek, "Dear friend, now you are free and can return to your own residence." Accompanied by this retinue, the king of doves went home. Mark you, there is much wisdom in saying, a job, however difficult to do, may be carried through with the aid of friends. Therefore, a person ought to find friends and, finding, regard them as his good fortune. Lightwing, the crow, who had witnessed the whole matter of Sheenek's capture and subsequent release, reflected in astonishment, "See how admirable it is! The intelligence of this mole, Goldie, his skill, and this whole idea of his fortress. It would be wise, indeed, on my part to strike up a friendship with Goldie. Granted that I, who am rather capricious of nature, never place my trust in anyone. Granted, too, that I cannot be easily fooled by anyone. Still, I should have a trusted friend, as it has been wisely observed. Through self-sufficient, a person should still have friends if he desires to raise his standing. The ocean ever full yet awaits eager, for the water's bright Swati's bounty brings." Having arrived at this conclusion, the crow flew down from the tree and, stationing himself at the entrance to the mole's burrow, called out to him by the name he had previously heard, "O friend Goldie, pray come out." At this Goldie reflected, a bit uncertain. Is this one of the doves, still somewhat entangled in the cords of the net, standing at my door and helping for help? And he inquired, "Sir, who are you?" "I am the crow named Lightwing," came the reply. At once Goldie scurried off to a far corner of his den and called out, "Begone, sir, leave this neighborhood." "I have come to you, sir, on some grave business, so kindly grant me an interview," replied Lightwing. "I see no particular need to make your acquaintance, sir," replied the mole. "Listen to me. Having witnessed the release of Lord Sheenek from his bonds through your exertions, I feel great confidence in you, Sir Mole, and if sometime I get similarly caught, my deliverance too could be effected through your kind exertions," explained Lightwing. To this Goldie retorted, "Sir, you are the eater, I am the food. What kind of friendship can exist between us? You know the saying, one who is fool enough to make friends with a person not his equal, be he inferior or superior, merely becomes the word's butt of ridicule. So make yourself scarce." The crow, however, remonstrated with the mole. "Look, sir, here I am, standing at your fortress gates. If you will not be my friend, I shall go on hunger strike." "For God's sake, man," retorted Goldie, "how can I build a friendship with you, who are my enemy? For is it not said, never form an alliance with a foe, even an alliance well contracted, approved, water through boiling hot, will do no less than put the fire out." To this the crow promptly replied, "Listen, your honor has not even set eyes on me. Where is the question of enmity? Why speak in a manner so unbecoming? Goldie retorted, "Look here, enmity is of two kinds. One that is natural and the other incidental. You are the natural enemy of us moles. The point is, you may speedily end bad blood by making due amends. But enmity in nature only ends with the spilling of blood." "Ah, well, if that is so, I wish to learn that the distinctive quality of each of the two kinds of enmity is," said the crow. "Well, it's like this," the mole replied. "The enmity that incidental springs from some cause, and if and when proper remedial measures are adopted, it ceases to operate. But the other kind of enmity, which is inborn, will always exist." Now the crow demurred. "There is no reason, no cause for this kind of thing, you know. And now, sir, pray listen to my words. A person seeks friendship for a reason. With a reason, a person incurs enmity. So is it not reasonable for a person to seek enmity rather than enmity?" In reply, all Goldie had to say was this: "Oh, come, come. What sort of fraternization can there be between you and me? Just listen to me while I expound the essence of ethics to you. Once a friend is faithless, to trust him again is to court death, no less, as the mule who conceived did. Moreover, alliance with villains is like earthen pots, easily broken, difficult to mend. Alliance with the virtuous like the golden pots, difficult to break, easy to mend. I am upright in all respects," continued Lightwing, "and further I shall dispel your fears by binding myself with oaths." To this Goldie's reply was, "Confidence in your oaths? I have none. As the proverb goes, do not trust a foe, though he binds himself with strongest oaths." Having sworn incredible oaths, Indra struck down Vratra. Having heard Goldie's sage observations, Lightwing found himself at a loss to reply. He began to reflect with great seriousness. "Aha! How admirable is this fellow's firmness and depth of knowledge in matters of social and moral ethics. This and this alone is my overriding consideration for desiring this friendship. Grant me your friendship, otherwise I shall give up my life right here at this spot." Goldie, hearing this plea, thought to himself, "This fellow is by no means unintelligent, that is plain from his talk. So I must extend my friendship to him." Having resolved this in his mind, Goldie accosted the crow. "Friend, you have gained my trust. I spoke the way I did because it was necessary to test your intelligence first. I now embrace you in affection." Saying this, the mole was about to step out when he stopped halfway and stood there. Lightwing queried, "Sir, is there still some reason in your mind to mistrust me, that you are hesitant to emerge from your fortress?" "Oh, no," answered the mole. "I have no fear of you because now I know your mind. But by being so trusting, I might sometime fall into the clutches of some friend or others of yours and meet my death." To this Lightwing replied, "Sacrificing a friend blessed with virtue to gain another is like planting fields with coarse millet that overpowers and chokes the rice. Something at all costs to be avoided." At these words, Goldie hurried out. The two greeted each other warmly and stood for a few minutes, gasping each other. Then the crow said, "This we will see in part 3 of The Tale of Barunda Birds."